Primary Tourist, Chapter 14. You know what galls my ass? Some of the people that work here, they think they're so superior just because, well, they work here and I live here. Well, fuck you, you fuck. Sorry, sir, but, they forget your humanity, and after a while, it's like I misplaced it myself. Or forgot, more like it, forgot that I'm human, and worse yet, for just a second, I stepped beyond humanity itself. Which somehow made me think about, the undisclosed location. The group home. Remember a couple of times back I was talking about how the overnights at the undisclosed location, the group home, were sweet? What I didn't tell you was the secret was getting to Saturday morning. Because Friday nights, man, they could be awful hit or miss. They could be sweet, no question about it. Then there are those other nights. Because one of the great things about it was also one of the worst things about it. You are on your own. Well, technically that's not true. If things got dicey enough, you could wake up the sleeping staff. But you wanted to avoid that if you could. I only had to wake up staff once, and nobody else did it in the year I worked there. I still think about that one time, like maybe I did something wrong, but I don't think so. And I've played it over in my head a time or two. Funny, not so much since I've been living here. I think it's because I used to feel sorry for the guys that lived in the group home. Now, not so much. At least it's not an asylum. I remember the night I woke up staff, it was about 1:30, 2 o'clock, when there was this soft knock from Stevie's door interrupting road to the White House. But no biggie. If all goes well, this won't take long. Those are 4 big words, though, if all goes well. He had to go to the bathroom, which he did without incident. Came out dressed and everything, which, if you remember, sir, was not a given with Stevie. Not with his history. And remember how I told you he just fucking froze last time? Well, this time, he not only froze, but he had a belligerent attitude to boot. So I say, hey, Stevie, you know your program. Go back to bed, right? I do not want to go to bed. Respect staff, right? I do not want to respect staff. Well, sir, I don't mind telling you now. Well, I was getting a little scared. Also, I'm not too embarrassed or macho or whatever to admit that I knew that Stevie could fuck me up. I knew some of the holds, kind of, but, well, let's just say it was time for the cavalry. I'm waking up staff, which I don't think is what Stevie wanted to hear. But to tell you the truth, he was weird that way. It might have turned him on in a weird kind of way. So I turned to go wake up staff, and what's Stevie do but start towards his room as if nothing happened. Well, if I let him get away with that shit, I was going to be up all night, every Friday night. Can't have it. It might be a bullshit game, but that's the game I was playing, whether I liked it or not. Oh, no, you don't, I said. You're washing the walls. Now, what that meant was I wasn't fooling around, but I wasn't being a dick either. Lots of assholes would just take them to the table, which is, well, you don't really want to know. It's really a nasty scene. And for Stevie, he loses privileges, and from there it usually gets really ugly. And it was not the scene I would like to wake up to, and damn, I didn't want that either, but it could have gone that way. I had to spray the wall, and he had to wipe it, but not where I didn't spray it. That would be go to the table bad, which was as bad as you'd ever want to see, believe me. It was all up to Stevie, really. 1 spritz, 1 wipe. 2 spritz, 2 wipes. And if he was going to make a go to the table move, it would be at 3 spritzes. But no, 3 wipes. And I could tell I had him when he yelled, "I hate you, Spike." But he didn't go against his program. He didn't lose privileges. We just lost sleep. Sorry, man. No problem, man. At least I get the higher pay rate. Cool. Hey, you think he's done for the night? Hard to say. It's early yet. That said it all. But before you knew it, it wasn't so early. Then it was not early at all. Then it was kind of late. Not a peep. Sunrise telling me I made it through the night, which meant I made it through another week, made it to another weekend. When I used to have tough shifts, it stayed with me after the shift for, a little while. But at the same time, it felt good to be away from there. The thing is, I knew my hands were tied. If he didn't wipe the walls, he'd figure he'd be able to walk all over me, and I didn't want that. And the funny thing is, neither did he. Not really. What I had to deal with on the way home was the car. It was winter between Christmas and New Year's. The car didn't like cold weather. It actually, by that time, didn't like any weather. What it really didn't like was months of my neglect. So, long story short, by this time, it was pissing out antifreeze, and I had to stop every 10 seconds to put more in. Real fucking fun. I made it home with God's direct help. I wanted to kiss the ground. It was time to catch a few Z's. I don't think I've ever, before or since, been more glad to see my bed and just sink into it. To sleep. Perchance to dream. Now isn't that the rub? That Shakespeare guy, he knew what he was talking about. That night, well, morning really, you can tell by my dreams I never really left work. You must know what I mean, sir. I mean, you must have those high-pressure days, and you get home and the last thing you want to think about is staring you right in the face, and when you dream, there it is, as in your face as if you punched the clock and were working overtime. Every dream started with Stevie saying, "But I want to go to the table," and then it got really ugly. Kicking, biting, you name it. And then I was driving a car that didn't move. You know how dreams just jump around. No rhyme, no reason. Just as quick as that, now I was cruising in New Hampshire with real nice wheels. I just couldn't make out what particular car it was. You see, sir, that's what I needed all along. Something to dream for. Most people, when they need to dream for something, well, unless they've already found true love, love is what they dream for. It's what we all want, isn't it? To live happily ever after? It's a myth, though, don't you think? I mean, even people lucky enough to find their soulmate, you don't get to live ever after. And don't get me started on the happily part. Love conquers all. Well, maybe. Believe you me, there's always a price. Anyway, on this day, I woke up, looked out the window, and saw my same old car. And well, sometimes dreams need a little nudge to become true. And to make matters worse, when I went to grab a paper to look at the want ads, my car key broke in the ignition. So I could start the car and turn off the car, but I couldn't take the keys. That would never fly at work since one of the guys had a history of stealing cars. So getting a new old car just became even more of a priority than it was before. You know, at the time I thought, "Oh, Jesus, woe is me, blah, blah, blah." But was I way off? Here I was bitching about having to get a new car. Now I'd love to be able to drive. And I was thinking I was trapped by my circumstances into having to get a car. And now, Jesus, what did I know about being trapped? Now here, I feel trapped. I hear a crazy woman crying nurse about 1,000,000 times, or can't get out of my room because another crazy person is blocking my way, and I just want to go home. And it takes me a little while to realize this is it. As close as I get to home these days. Homeless, man. That's what I am. But not then. I had a place, I had a car, I had a job. What more did I want? A better place, a better car, a better job, I guess. Crazy, huh? More. That's what I wanted. Isn't that what we all want? More? At least what we're supposed to want. That reminds me, sir. What am I supposed to want now? I mean, I want out, that much I know, but after that it gets a little hazy. I want to walk, but is that just insane? I mean, really walk, not the shit I do now. A little quiet, enough to hear myself think, that would be nice too. And a place without roommates would be nice. But how will I occupy my days? I can't go back to work, at least not now. Would be nice, but I just can't. I like reading, but all day? I'll tell you what, sir. Get me out of here and I'm sure I'll think of something. If only it was as easy as getting a new car turned out to be. Things ever just fall into place for you? The first ad I called, boom. You had a shitload of choices, one of them even in my price range. A 1983 Volvo, my new old car. A godsend, a veritable piece of heaven, I'll tell you. What could be my godsend now? Is there any room for a piece of heaven in this world I find myself in? Lots of hell's real estate cluttering up every available space. The cruel irony is that a car would do me no good now because even if I could drive with my good foot, I'm in fucking prison here. I gotta get permission just to go to the fucking front yard like a fucking kid needing permission to go to the bathroom. I have to tell you, sir, staff around here, they're not exactly respectful of the inmates. And me, I just lose my humanity, or do they take it? So where was I? Oh yeah, my Volvo. Damn, I loved that car. More than any other car I've ever had the pleasure of owning. Sweet ride, good size for me. Definitely came in time for venturing out, searching for the great white. Not that I found him, mind you, but it sure was a nice ride looking. That's the nice thing about having no car or a shitty car. Once you have a halfway decent car, it's like you died and went to heaven. There's no freedom like newfound freedom. By definition, though, it can only be newfound for a little bit. It just so happened to come right in time for the primary this time around. Come to find out, that was the last time I had wheels at the carnival. By '08, the Volvo was but a memory. I used to ride to the carnival on a bus. 2 buses, in fact, or a train and a bus, more likely. Either way, there was a stopover in Boston, the big city. Well, bigger than Providence or Concord, anyway. Thing about the trips is every single one of them I took alone, but most of them, somebody was with me in my head. I remember the time I was moving and Jennifer had dropped me off at the bus station and stayed put in my head, my heart mostly. There was something iconic about that goodbye at the bus station. I had a box or two that she was going to hold on to for me. She's still holding on to them. Anyway, there were some family pictures I wanted to show her, pictures I wanted to see again myself. I wondered if she could pick me out as a kid with my whole family in front of the White House. Jesus, I think Eisenhower was still living there. She got it, first try. I wondered if she could see how fragile I was, could see that my first grade teacher wondered if I was retarded. Little did I know that she had even greater obstacles when she was even younger than that. She didn't walk until 3 or 4, and then needed therapy until she was 14. I had no idea back then, though. The adult I knew was so whole, so magic, but I don't think she had any idea how rare her talent was, or how beautiful she was. She was matchless at knowing the magic of each moment. Not so good at realizing that 90% easy of the magic was her. I'm not saying she was perfect. I guess what I'm saying is that perfection itself is overrated. Perfection is something that toddler in front of the White House believed in. He believed that woman holding his hand was perfect, and that's why he loved Mommy. It was only later, when I learned how much more sad and beautiful and complicated and dear she was than perfection would allow, that I knew why I loved my mother. It's the complications, the ambiguities, that were telling me this is a woman of flesh and blood, not central casting. Sure, she had a resume, a good one too.
a BA degree from the University of Rome, a war bride, a doctor of Italian, mother of five. The resume doesn't tell you that war bride was a demotion from where she was. She never saw an outhouse until she came here, was never in Millhouse housing until she lived with her mother-in-law, never really had to cook a meal until she was married and across the ocean from home. She never had to pine for home, even during the war. Under Mussolini's grasp, she was spared that. Until now. She never had to wonder why she had to go so far back then. Always wished she could go back. Or that she never came here in the first place. Except for the kids, I wouldn't have my kids, she'd say. I ask you, sir, isn't that so much better than perfection? One thing I kind of couldn't figure out about Jennifer was how sad she was that I was leaving, at least for now. I mean, the thing about us was not how much time we spent together, as much as how wonderful that time was. So, sad to say, day to day we never really spent that much time together. How can you miss what you never really had? Yet I knew exactly what she meant. But I thought I was crazy. I mean, we never even kissed. I wanted to, but I never got the return vibe. Not in that way, but boy, we sure did like each other. We laughed, we played with words, we danced, she sang. But then, always, as fast as it came, it was over. Until the next time. Yet somehow, the thought of not having it, that occasional magic, it took the shine off life. Even to chase the great white man, it seemed like a hell of a price to pay, while she stayed here and started her own band, her dreams starting to gel, her ride just beginning. She had to go before the bus arrived. We hugged our goodbyes. She didn't seem as sad today as in previous days. Maybe she started to believe what I had been telling her, that I probably won't get a job and will be back here February 1st, which turned out to be true, but I had to be prepared to move because, well, hell, either I'm giving this a shot or not. No halfway bullshit, I told myself. But that's exactly what I ended up doing. I think what I really wanted, even at this early juncture, was Jen's heart to melt and for us to have a thing. I can't even say I was in love with her at this point, but Jesus, I liked that girl. And I can tell, in many, many ways, the feeling was mutual. But it wasn't crossing that line. Later on, in my own fantasy, I created this world in which she felt guilty because a long time ago she tried to fix me up with her mom. Now she would say, just to hang out with someone her old age. It's not that I want to fix you up with my mother. Now, sir, rule of thumb, whenever someone says, I'm not trying to fix you up with my mom, what they're trying to do is fix you up with their mom. And Jen never was the best liar in the world, which as far as I'm concerned speaks well for her. I mean, let's be honest, everybody fucking lies. But most of us, well, we feel bad about it. Show me a good liar, and I'll show you someone to avoid. Anyway, the first time I actually met her mother was when the two of them came to see one of my plays. And I think it kind of impressed her mom. The ironic thing is, well, at least in my little fantasy world, it kind of impressed Jen, too. And, again, maybe just in my own little fantasy world, she regretted the fix-up with Mom, especially since, well, you can't force these things, and nice woman and all, attractive even, but I just wasn't feeling it for Mom. I tried to, trust me, but it just wasn't happening. Irony on top of irony? The play was about a writer that wrote his way into and then out of love, the big L. I can't make this shit up. I just, for some reason, can't write it down. Damn great white. He better be in New Hampshire. I've given up a lot for the hunt, a real lot. On the way up north, all I could think of was the price. Up until Boston. Around there, I started getting the vibe of the coming carnival. Tomorrow is Iowa, then everybody will be in Manchester, Concord, Bow, who knows. Right around here, too, all the Republicans will be here, the only game in town. It's a GOP carnival this cycle. Before you knew it, I was in Concord, before Mitt and the Not Romneys. What's that? Time's up. But we hardly just got started.
Primary Tourist, Chapter 15. Okay, sir, you remember a couple of sessions back I was talking about going into the lake region to see Ron Paul with Nate? This was only a year ago. It just seems like a century ago. It's a whole world ago, really. Well, anyway, the Ron Paul event turned out to be a little bit of a clusterfuck. Just a little one. No one near as bad as that Edwards fiasco in '08, but, well, for one thing, we couldn't get in. It was just really fucking packed. Rand Paul was there with his dad, and that was part of the appeal. The 500-seat auditorium was packed, closed by order of the fire marshal. From what we can tell from just outside, the crowd was a mixture of libertarians, independents, Tea Party regulars with some dissatisfied Democrats thrown in the mix. The media, as always, made sure their carbon fingerprints were as huge as they could be with their buses and trucks and news vans clogging up the parking lot. The biggest impression I have stuck in my head was of a couple of dozen of Hasidic Jews in Orthodox black. Am I the only one, sir, that thinks that the Orthodox basic black outfits kind of arrest time, like now could be thousands of years ago or on the edge of Armageddon, umpteen centuries from now? It's kind of creepy, to tell you the truth. Because what it's telling me is that crazy, outdated thought can hang on forever. Tradition and all that. And the real depression thing is it's largely propagated through just plain reproduction. Some people are reassured by that. As for me, I'm just depressed. Morons can reproduce like rabbits as well as, better even, a fucking Mensa convention. Not that Hasidic Jews were idiots. Necessarily. I'll say one thing about the whole scene. It definitely had points for swankness. Republicans tend to go in for that. It blends right into a whole philosophy of wealth being some kind of exclusive club that the creme de la creme are in and everybody else is, well, obviously not worthy. Let them eat not cake but processed food. To tell you the truth, I'm always a little surprised when I meet a Republican that I like, because to be perfectly honest with you, the philosophy behind it is kind of fucked, as far as I can see anyway. And what exactly were the Hasidic Jews after? I knew they were citizens more than tourists. And I knew what their sign said, Jews against Israel. You know, I kind of could dig that, in sort of a cartoony kind of way. Because Nate took good notes, I know a little bit more of their agenda and, for that matter, who the fuck they were. They were members of the Naturi Kata International Anti-Zionist Group. Their thing was the peaceful dismantlement of the State of Israel, which I think was going to get done through prayer. Like I said, you don't have to be an idiot to be a Hasidic Jew, but it sure as hell doesn't hurt. When you think of it, the only reason I paid even as much attention as I did to them was because we couldn't see Ron and Rand Paul and nature abhors a vacuum. So anyway, we got shut out, and we were a lot less pissed off than a bunch of them media people. It was a lot more of a clusterfuck for them, because they don't give a flying you-know-what about no Hasidic Jew bullshit. We want Papa Ron and Son Rand, damn it, because hell, we're the press. Maybe I'm a bad person, but for me, the press getting shut out too made it all worthwhile. Almost. Any way you look at it, we had to go. Good thing you got your include me out pin. Got to go with Plan B. It's more than a pin. It's a way of life. Whatever the hell that is. Here's one of the great ironies of my life. I always had a ton of Plan Bs. Yet I was always unprepared. So how far to Laconia? About 20 minutes. Well, what say we head to Laconia, figure out where the hell we're going, see about tickets for the play, then figure something out for the rest of the day.
It seems to me we should be able to find a not Romney the Sunday before the New Hampshire primary, don't you think? Or even an actual Romney. Hey, I don't get a chance to see a play with a playwright very often. Now, me, sir, I kind of forget that. Hell, I got something that impresses people. I think it's cool to have a major advantage over your sidekick. Hey, who one-upped who? The Lone Ranger or Tonto? Shit, man, my friends always see a play with a playwright. There was a pause. It seemed it was in the air, like the universe itself wanted me to savor the moment. A playwright, that's who I am. Dig it. And I can't vouch for the play. It's the same guy that wrote On Golden Pond. You see that? Can't say I did. Me either. But this is a world premiere. That's true. Could be hotties. Every party is that much more of an event if there are hotties. By this time, I was checking out the webpage for political suicide on my laptop. We're heading to Pittman's Freight Room on New Salem Street. Isn't everybody? Only a select few. Select? That sounds a little bit 1% for me. That's true. This is the year to occupy, not be occupied. They're everywhere, by the way. Republicans seem a natural target, both sides filled with mutual contempt of each other. Occupy this. So, who have you seen? Oh, Jesus, well, Mitt? What's up with him? Is he really the best they got? That's two questions. One, what's up with him? Whatever the fuck the polls tell him is up. Two, is he the best they got? No. Huntsman is tons better, would have a much better chance in the general, but will they nominate him? No. I can't see them nominating Romney, but that's what they'll probably do because who else they going to nominate? So who else you see? Well, Santorum. Yeah, I want to see him. You might be disappointed. I mean, he comes across as a kind of a nice guy that wants to be president and can't stand Obamacare. Of course, all of them know that the passing of Obamacare means the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. Exactly. Okay, who else? Huntsman. I know you're sick of me saying this, but he's the best they got. You know, he's not necessarily charismatic, but he's the kind of guy that you say, he makes sense. Then you realize none of the other ones do, except Ron Paul, sort of, in foreign policy matters anyway. You know what that means? What's that? Trouble, and that's what I want to see. So Santorum's a bore, huh? Well, that's what I've seen, but I know he can be inflammatory and kind of sort of compare homosexuality to bestiality to a college crowd. Trouble. There you go. But with Occupy, well, trouble can be anywhere. Remember, where there's trouble, there's likely to be vermin. Ah, yes, all politicians are vermin, but there's only one vermin supreme. I think vermin being there in and of itself constitutes trouble. It seems like he was hanging with the Occupy people. Beyond the theater of it all, I think Occupy is where his heart is. So where are they? In the heart of downtown Manchester. They're camping out for the winter. Well, I guess actually now they have to leave for the night, but up to, June maybe, they were camped out, basically living there, the 99%. Fucking A. Trouble? Sorry to say, I think not. The cops are surprisingly cool with things as far as I can tell. Damn. I wonder if Nate would have enjoyed being in Vietnam at the height of the craziness, the ugliness, but damn, what a shot at the Great White. Nothing bad ever happens to a writer, is how Rod puts it. Except a stroke. That's bad. I don't care how good a muse she is. You know what, though? Occupy is not a bad place for you to be, especially if you're looking for trouble. You can find out where they're going to be stirring the shit anyway. Well, that's what I'm looking for. Well, Manchester is a ways from Laconia, maybe before Dixville Notch. Because if there was something that was going to set this trip apart, it was going to be Dixville Notch. Little did we know. The best laid plans of mice and men and all that shit. Nate didn't respond to any talk of the Notch. I guess I didn't see that as a hint, but, hindsight is 20/20, they say. Yeah, we got to check out Occupy tomorrow, Nate said, nudging the topic as far from Dixville Notch as possible. But only the most discerning observer could pick that out. A discerning observer that doesn't want to let go of a dream just yet will never see it coming, mostly because he doesn't want to. I got to warn you, the carnival just isn't the same when all you got is Republicans. Ah, nonsense. What about Occupied? What about Vermin? I suppose. It's just that these Republicans, other than Huntsman, they're just such fucking bozos. Every good circus has clowns. Yeah, but all we have is clowns. You can bet your ass that none of these egotistical cowards has any stomach for the high wire. Tell me how you really feel. I mean it, man. There's not a president in this crowd, which is not to say Obama isn't vulnerable, but they can't run not Obama. They got to pick one of these assholes. Good, so we get 4 more years. I guess. But if you have a two-party system and one of them bites it, that might be good for the remaining party, but the country? I don't think so. More parties? The more the merrier. Lots of countries do that. Why not us? If nothing else, it'll keep the big two honest.
By that time, we were in Laconia, and all we had to do was find the play's location so we could scope out the ticket situation and then wing it from there. We were looking for Pittman's Freight Room. We found it and parked in their dirt lot. It was a pretty nice rustic makeshift theater at this funky place. It was right up my alley, and there were tickets for the play, plus a neat shirt that said, "Political suicide on one side, funnier than the debates on the other." Only $10. I was temporarily cash not poor, so I had another shirt in my, for want of a better word, wardrobe. And the woman that sold us our tickets was extremely attractive and friendly, and married to the co-producer of the show, and had me pegged as a senior. But still, life is good as long as your expectations are in check. Diminished expectations. That's the key to a happy life. Such irony. Man, I may not have had everything, but Jesus, I had a lot. I could walk, for one thing, and you know what? That's something I'll never take for granted again. Just putting one foot in front of the other. God, what a fucking miracle. I guess that now the only miracle in my life is that this baby's still ticking. Lord knows that's not a given, even though we all take it for granted. Like Nick, for instance. You had to figure he was going to be around for a while, decades, long after my time runs out. Again, take nothing for granted. I guess we're all into the taking for granted thing when we're honest with ourselves. God knows, even in '08, with everything that happened to Nick that spring, even then I took it all for granted. I took renewals as the gift that keeps on giving. That fact was both not as sweet and sweeter than usual. I know that sounds funny, but when something like that happens, you look for blessings wherever you can find them, and you appreciate them all the more amid this great fog of sorrow. Thursdays were my half day leading into a long weekend. Most of that weekend would be spent at hospice. I remember it was a pretty profitable day, and I was heading down the stairs to leave, and I saw a blue convertible with its top down cruising down the street. It was a perfect day for it, too. Not a cloud in the sky. A friend of mine had a convertible, and I've had many a splendid day enjoying the company and the ride and the day itself, and I hoped he got a chance to enjoy his car, and I really hoped Nick had a chance to enjoy it. It was the kind of day I didn't even mind the walk to Kennedy Plaza that much, except that it ended in Kennedy Plaza. I think I didn't stop at home, just took the bus out to hospice and came into the lobby where I saw my sister-in-law. "How's Nick?" "Oh, he should be back now.
Isn't that wonderful what the dealer did? I just got here. What did he do? Oh, that's right. You don't know. Nick took a ride today with Bill in a nice convertible. A top-down day. And Bill was driving? Yeah, they just got back. I could picture it. Nick up front, face half paralyzed, yet smile as bountiful as ever, somehow intact through it all. And alongside him, driving, was his father, my brother Bill. And that was Nick's choice, to have Bill there, and I can tell from being at the hospice and, well, looking, he really looked up to his father, but not in an arm's length kind of way. Anybody that knows Bill knows he's not an arm's length kind of guy. There was definitely respect there, but he knew that his dad knew how to have fun. They went out on the highway and went fast, almost as fast as Nick wanted to. And the car handled really nice, and the wind rippled in that beautiful mid-spring way. They stayed out for a while, over an hour, which I'm sure was over much too soon. When it was all over, Nick looked at magazine ads for cars, wondering which one he'd get for himself. I guess we all knew it wouldn't happen, even Nick, but none of us said anything. Maybe we even allowed ourselves to just a little believe it. When I got there, representatives from his college were there. Here's your diploma. You have some work left, but we know you're good for it. I'll get to it, he said with all sincerity. But we knew better. We all knew that this day was almost done, and that this day was heady, a great day, never to be repeated. I guess all days are that way, but we don't think of them that way. It's only when the impermanent stares you in the face, like what was going on now, that you saw how things were, how here today and gone tomorrow. Those guys were great. The dealership, these guys at the college, everybody. They made for a great day for Nick. Bill said to me, then we were both silent for a little bit, letting everything sink in. A real nice day. It's funny how you appreciate how great people can be when you really need them. It's actually true, I'll tell you. Sir, since my stroke, I found out who my friends are, and Jesus, what an awesome lot I've got. I can't imagine what I'd do without them. Boy, when the chips are down, that's when you find out what they're made of. And Jesus, so many people in my life that made of solid gold. I don't even deserve it, but I get to have them anyway. I guess I'm blessed. I don't feel it all the time, especially in this hellhole. But when it comes to having great friends, I have the best. And I'm still here. Look at Nick. He doesn't get to be here. It wouldn't be right not to rejoice that I do, even if I'm here at this pit. But not forever, right? I get out of here, right, sir? And when will that be? Yeah, I guess time will tell. And time for this session is running out, I'll bet. That's the thing about time. It's either running on or running out.